Hey guys, it's Mike Simpson again with Arizona Tactical Adventures. I'm going to be discussing item number 5 on our ATA training checklist, our force continuum model. Now, a continuum is simply a sequence of events or actions that are going to flow into each other. So when we're talking about force continuum, we're looking at a series of optional actions that allow us to de-escalate or solve a dangerous situation at the lowest level of force. So let's take a look at what these are. At the lowest level, we're going to have presence. For presence to be effective and create a deterrent, you need to be viewed as being both professional and competent. The way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak to others is going to tell us a lot about your professionalism, the training you've received as it relates to security, law enforcement, or military applications, as well as your ability to actually be able to stop the attack, being competent. So again, lowest level of force is going to be presence. We have to be both professional and competent. On that next level of force is going to be verbal commands. One of the great drills that we practice whenever we're at the shooting range is going to be our contact and control techniques. Anytime we initiate contact with a subject, we're going to start off with our verbal commands, being polite and professional, but we have to be able to escalate that into a strong command, authoritative voice to shock the subject into compliance. So our second rung is going to be verbal commands. From there, we move into our escort techniques. Now, the goal of an escort technique is to move a subject from a sensitive area, maybe our private property or a business, into an area that we can more suitably handle the situation that's about to arise. Normally, what we try to do is get that subject to comply to move. If we have to use an escort technique, we want to typically use an open hand, target their dominant elbow, and ask them to come with us. By making a light touch with that subject, we're going to be able to see whether they're a yes, maybe, or a no person. Yes person will comply. Maybe person might have to hear what the policy or procedures are for that facility to comply. A no person is going to branch off either into a passive resistor, defensive resistor, or aggressive resistor. A passive resistor will refuse to move but won't pose a threat to you. Defensive resistor might make statements or put hands up, indicating that if you touch them, they might become a threat. An aggressive resistor might move into a fight stance and threaten you if you make contact with them again. So at this point, we've been able to conduct an escort technique or not, which is going to lead us to that next area, low impact strike techniques. Low impact strike techniques primarily feature the use of open hands, and we are not targeting the central nervous system. In other words, we're not going to strike the face or the spinal column. Typically, we're going to try to use restraint techniques. We're going to be targeting the arms, the legs, fatty tissues on the body, but we're not trying to strike the central nervous system. One of the good examples of what we do in our break contact drills is going to be that spear attack that we're striking forward, but we're typically not using a closed hand, and we're not trying to target the central nervous system. From here, we have to draw a definitive line where we are now having to use a greater amount of force, and we're being pushed into that next level of force, which is going to be less lethal technology. So if I'm going to have to go hands-on with an individual, I would much prefer to give that individual the option to de-escalate the situation by introducing less lethal technology. Pepper sprays, pepper ball, stun guns, tasers, beanbag rounds. These would all fall under the category of less lethal technology. When used properly with training, less lethal technology should not cause any serious bodily injury or death. However, if improperly used or at the wrong distance, it could result in serious bodily injury or death. From here, we now move into high impact strike techniques. Now we are using things like closed fists. We are targeting the central nervous systems. We also might use things like a baton or a flashlight to increase the amount of force that we can generate. High impact strike techniques can cause serious bodily injury or death if used improperly. So we need to understand that less lethal technology and high impact strike techniques may result in the use of deadly force. And finally, our last force that's available to us will be deadly force. Deadly force is categorized by any action that will cause serious bodily injury or death. So it's important to understand that for us to use deadly force, we need to always have those justified preconditions for use of deadly force. Intent, capability, and opportunity. We discussed these in training item number 6. So again, let's recap our force continuum model. At the lowest level, we have presence, we have verbal commands, escort techniques, low impact strike techniques, less lethal technology, high impact strike techniques, and deadly force. Thanks again for joining me today. Again, I'm Mike Simpson with Arizona Tactical Adventures.